We're live, folks. Back with another episode of Chill Film Discussion. I almost forgot the title of this film, but this whole thing. But no, we are here with another episode. Me and Austin. Yeah. So today's discussion was about Nightcrawler, released in 2014. It is an American neo-noir psychological thriller film directed by Dan Gilroy in his directorial debut, which is honestly really like impressive. It stars Jake Gyllenhaal as the main character, Louis Bloom, who's a stringer who sort of records violent events late at night in Los Angeles and then sells the footage to news stations. And then it also has, I think, Renee Russo as Nina, who is like the news anchor the news anchor
Director.
woman. Yeah.
She's the director, right?
News director of the news station, yeah. And then Riz Ahmed as Rick, who is his partner. Underpaid and overworked partner. But yeah, this film I felt it was more of like a character study than a traditional film following a protagonist and antagonist. We had a protagonist, and if I had to name what an antagonist was in this film for this protagonist, it would be society. Basically, Louis Bloom is a character who is very he's basically a psychopath, and he knows what he wants. He takes advantage of basically the characters that he interacts with to get what he wants. And yeah, like his moral compass is practically non-existent. But like that's the sort of story that we follow throughout this film of his actions, as it's divulged essentially that this guy will do anything to get what he wants is quite fascinating in some sense. I think it's well executed because there is growth in his character, but it's not good growth. It's like very much negative growth. He becomes more and more and more wrong, like morally. And he succeeds. Yeah, he succeeds with it. And it's always like, at least as a viewer, the first time watching it, I was always wondering like what's going to happen next. Like, how is this film going to end? What will happen? And I was hooked by that prospect. Like, what is next for this character? Because it seems like he's doing everything. I mean, there's a couple of speed bumps along the way of his journey, but like, he always seemed like everything was all according to his plan, and it was just wondering like where this plan was going to lead, which was the fascinating part of this film, or at least something that I was very much engaged with. Yeah, and then another thing about this film that I sort of saw was the sort of like, it's like not like a satire, but almost like making fun of how ridiculous news is portrayed. In some sense, how people always want to just tune into the negative news, the bad news, the glorified violence or whatever, in some sense, because that's what builds ratings, and that's what's apparently, and that's what attracts people to tune in, which is what I suppose builds success for the news folks, especially Nina, who's the director.
I wouldn't even say it's like a satire. I think that's just the theme, right? Like, this is the how the news cycle works.
Yeah. Satire is probably not the right word. Right? It's not making fun of it. Actually, it very much is like a real thing. It's exaggerated in this film, but like it's very much a real thing. Yeah, satire was probably the wrong word. Yeah, thanks for correcting me. Yeah, it's very much thematic significance. That is the thematic significance of that portrayed in this film. But yeah, I enjoy the journey of this film. I enjoyed the ending, even though it wasn't a happy ending per se. It wasn't a traditional happy ending, but I think there was that noir aspect to it, with the whole sort of like ambiguously like, not ambiguous. It's just not a good happy ending. It's a happy ending for the character itself. Like he got what he wanted, but like morally, yeah, it's not the best ending of sorts. And the only gripe I have is the very nitpicky gripe is the intro credits. I wish I have a thing against the intro credits that just show B footage of a city as the intro credits. I think it could be a little bit more with building a character. Like if you credits follows a character in the setting in the city, like that would be a little bit more engaging. But that's a very nitpicky thing because intro credits are like
it's very minor.
Very minor. So for the most part, great film. I enjoyed most of it, a lot of it, and I enjoyed watching it. I was on the edge of my seat, seeing this journey unfold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I probably kind of reflect a lot of your sentiment, Patrick. I think this is a film that, again, as you said, very gripping, engaging, suspenseful, right? How they're able to build suspense and whatnot, and the content itself is also just surrounding a very graphic, people who record imagery for the news. And as you said, this is very interesting character to follow, and for me, it's just seeing as you said, seeing what happens to him, and for me, I kind of also wanted to see some is he able to able to have justice delivered upon him, right? Is he able to face the consequences of his actions? And he ultimately doesn't. And for me, that I think kind of hurts it for me, because I wanted some satisfaction, at least either make it open ended with at the end of the scene where he has that detective cop, maybe just even just staying in there, right? Like, yeah, I mean, he's detained, but it can go either way. But they kind of show him have to succeed, and yeah, I guess that's the reality part. Bad people do to succeed, but for a fictional story, I think that just doesn't work well for me. Thematically, I just wanted something something to something to happen to him, something just, because he does a lot of very terrible things throughout the film, and we're following a very terrible character. So it would have been nice, I guess, to put it a more open-ended ending, I think. So we the audience can interpret, like, oh, do we want to make this story good, or do we want to make this story bad? This guy able to be let off the hook because there's nothing could can touch him, right? And then throughout the film, I think there is a lot of suspension of disbelief that has to happen, right? This guy's interfering with crime scenes, interfering with accidents, right? Manipulating the scene of events. He never gets caught because of that, right? He almost gets caught, but he never gets caught, leaving evidence or just interfering, which again you have to probably again suspend your disbelief, just because these things probably they're trying to again tell the stories for plot convenience sake, right? But again, for me, it's always back in mind, like, this guy's there's nothing going to happen to him. I think the biggest aspect is probably one of the better parts of the film too, is that when he goes into that house robbery, right? There's a time limit of the police, and you think he's going to get caught, but again, at the same time, he's running around, right, trying to record this footage, which is a great scene in terms of building suspense for the audience. But looking back at it, even throughout the scene, like, is he gonna get caught? He's gonna get caught. Like, why is he in this scene? Like, he's gonna leave evidence. He's gonna get what happens when they catch him?
Yeah.
It builds to the scene, adds to the scene, right? But at the same time, it just says you kind of like that. Like, is this guy an idiot, or is everyone around him an idiot? No, just allow him to do this.
Right.
But that's that's throughout the film. There's all these other things. You get someone who's doing something morally unethical. You think someone will call him out on it, and no one really does, right? Not even until the end. They try to, but he gets off. Yeah. But throughout the film, you are engaged, right? Because you want to see something to happen to him. You want to see what he does. So it's always exciting, and you see good people, or maybe not really good people. The only good person, right, is just like his assistant Rick. Like, this is a guy who falls on hard times. Yeah. He's desperate. He needs paid. He's homeless, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
And he gets taken advantage of. And then at the end, his death is filmed, and he gets
spoiler alert,
thrown away. Yeah, spoiler alert. He gets thrown away, right? For Lou's own ambition, right? And then there's Nina, a strong-willed character who kind of succumbs, as you said before, to him. But she is not the perfect character either, because she also tries to manufacture a narrative in the news. But yeah, the themes are there, like how human nature is more attuned or wants to watch, or at least in the news cycle, wants to watch bad news and whatnot.
Yeah.
And how they're trying drives ratings, drives them to do these things that we see probably as like, oh, this is probably not something that good people do. So again, very engaging, very gripping, right? As you said, it holds you in. It kind of wants you to learn more about what's happening every step of the way. But I want to say it has you rooting for the character. It doesn't have you root for the character at all. You kind of want to this character to see something happen to him, but you also want to see what happens. So it's kind of again like that meta, stepping outside. Like we are engaged of a story that is almost gory or of a very unethical man doing something in his world to rise to the top.
Yep. Yep. Character study. It's a character study.
Yeah, it's a character study.
Almost.
It is. Like, there's no real antagonist, right? Like that pushes against him, right? There are forces there, but no one's really stays narratively throughout the film to push against him. It's him who actually pushes, changes the world around him, or him growing himself, his ambition growing greater and greater. What's the next obstacle? What's the next step? And he goes even further, kind of more deep into like, oh yeah, let me get involved. Let me create the right shot so I can sell this and become, make more money and get even bigger. Get a new car so I can go faster. Get a new camera, right?
Yeah.
Build my relationships. Build my credentials at the news station so they're willing to pay more, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep. That's basically it. Well said, Mr. Austin. So yeah, final ratings. I would. Yeah, I actually don't think there's not much I would change about this film. I enjoyed it pretty thoroughly. I give it a 9.
9.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not perfect. I mean, mainly for that intro. There's that nitpicky intro credit. I don't know. That's one thing, and also, I mean, that's a yeah. Maybe there could have been more of like. Actually, yeah. I mean, there might have been, there could have been more, I guess, crimes that, not crimes, but more footage that he could basically expanding on how far he would be willing to go to manufacture a story. There could be more of that. But I think the movie itself, having been 2 hours, not dragging, or didn't feel like it dragged that much. Sort of conveys that message well enough. So yeah, 9. Final rating.
Wow. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I think for me it'd probably be an 8. I think, as you said, it's engaging, right? And it's very gripping. But at the same time, as I said, I kind of want a payoff at the ending, which I don't think I kind of got. And I think, there's a lot of suspension of disbelief that has to happen. I think maybe handling the way, maybe him be more careful. When he's going, but again, time is of the essence in his job, so he can't really. But again, some things are exaggerated there. And I don't know, maybe. I'm maybe not an antagonist per se, but some, again, there's a lot of news stations out there. No one's fact checking him, right? But again, it's that suspicion of disbelief that has to be there. Sometimes it's not, because sometimes the things that he does is like really absurd, right?
Right.
But again, it's a very interesting story to tell. We're following a guy, right? And there is that kind of realistic component to it, but at the same time, it's just like, wow, this guy really goes out of the way, and there's no one there to stop him at all.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a good movie, right? No, I would definitely recommend it.
I would recommend it too. Especially for those who haven't seen it before.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've seen it before, yeah, I want to know. Yeah, I mean, like for first-time viewers, I think it's a nice journey.
You get a lot.
You get a lot from it.
Right?
Yeah. It's a lot of suspense, essentially. There's a lot of good suspense. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, that basically ends this discussion for Nightcrawler. We'll be back next week. Next Sunday, 11 a.m. Pacific time, with a new movie that we will decide off stream, and we'll update the schedule accordingly because we seem to do that a lot. With that being said, I hope you guys have a good day whenever you watch this, if you watch this, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Bye.
Cheers.